I'm just going to take a moment here to talk about our new obsession, which is London Nootropics adaptogenic coffee.
We found it in the studio. We started drinking it. We became obsessed with it. We brought it into our own homes and then we contacted the company.
We cold emailed them.
Because we loved it so much.
We loved it so much and we really wanted to work with them. All I can tell you is that every time I drink one of these coffees and I like the flow, it is like, it just switches me on. I can do back-to-back shows. I can come home. I can do edits. I'm awake. I'm alive. I'm focused. I'm here. I'm in the room. It tastes delicious. I love this coffee.
Right, I like the Zen. That's my favourite blend. I have it with oat milk and a sweetener because I have to.
Yes.
It's a little bit of caffeine, but not too much caffeine. So you don't get the jitters and you don't get the crash. I just feel very calm. I feel very productive. And also, and can I just say this is the most important thing, it is yummy. This is what people ask, like, is it mushroomy? Doesn't it disgusting? Let me smell it. It's lovely.
And it's got all the good quality stuff in it.
And it's properly sourced.
Yes, it is properly sourced. So it's ethically sound. And it's got things like KSM 66 ashwagandha. I didn't know what that was, but apparently that's really good for you.
It's so good for you.
It's got lots of potent mushroom extracts and exclusively from Hifasta, all with clinical studies. So basically, in layman's terms, what you are putting in your system is really good.
And tastes good.
And they have given us, to give you a 20% off code at londonnootropics.com, and all you have to write in, the code is self-care.
Go get yourself some, you won't regret it.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked their holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
This episode is sponsored by Welbeck, providing beyond better healthcare.
This podcast is for information only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please contact your own healthcare provider. Hello everybody, I'm Nicole Goodman.
And I'm Laura Mishkon, and this is Self-Care Club.
Today we're getting into the weighty topic of those famous little pens that everybody seems to be injecting. GPL-1 weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. It's a hot topic with a story in the news about it every single week.
We wanted to cut through the noise and get the real facts from an actual medical professional. So we have invited an endocrinologist to the club who knows this topic inside out and is going to be myth-busting and answering all of your questions and all our questions about weight loss injections. Dr Saira Hameed is a consultant endocrinologist at Imperial College Healthcare, NHS Trust and Welbeck, and an honorary clinical senior lecturer at Imperial College London. She is the author of the Sunday Times bestseller, The Full Diet, a holistic, evidence-based weight management program based on her expert specialist clinical practice. Her new book, Signals, which explains the power of our hormones, will be published by Faber in June 2026. Saira, welcome to Self-Care Club.
Thank you for inviting me.
Or welcome back, should I say.
This is a return visit.
It is. Part 2.
We don't have many return visits.
I'm honoured.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Wow.
We know that you're very busy. You're also a very close personal friend of Lauren's.
We should say that at the top of the show.
I have.
No, I mean, just in case it's a bit like, why is she being so...
Familiar.
Yes.
Yeah. Full disclosure, right?
You were at school together.
We were.
We've been friends for 42 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
I was about to say long years, but they haven't been long years. They've been short years.
It's true.
Or just years. Anyway.
Let's start
with the basics, shall we? Can you explain to us and all the non-medics out there listening what a GLP-1 is?
Okay, we've got to go even more basic than that. Okay, let's start with, you said I'm a consultant endocrinologist.
Yep.
What does that mean? That means I'm a hormone doctor, okay? Because no one ever knows what that means. So I just have to kind of clear that up. So the reason that you are asking me about GLP-1 is GLP-1 is a hormone. And
okay.
it has, garnered a ton of attention recently because it has been synthesized into these injections that we'll come on to. But we all make GLP-1. So GLP-1 is a hormone made in the gut, and we will all make it and produce it and send it out to the rest of the body when we eat something. Okay? So the way to look at it is we all generate our own internal Ozempic every time we eat.
Okay.
I did not know that. Did you know that?
Nope. I had no idea. What is food noise? Because this seems to be what everyone says. Oh, I take the Mounjaro and it takes away my food noise.
Yeah, okay. So food noise is the feeling that you're always thinking about food, you're very preoccupied by food, you eat something, you're not satisfied, you're thinking about what's next. It's like this internal chatter all the time related to food. It can be quite distressing, and it often means that when you then say, I'm going to be good today, or I'm going to follow this plan, or I'm going to try and eat less, and all that sort of stuff, the chatter gets so loud that in the end, you eat more than you want to, and then you berate yourself, and then you end up in this cycle. And the food noise, I think, causes a lot of distress for a lot of people.
When I wake up in the morning, when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm thinking about what I'm going to make for dinner. Is that food noise?
No.
Why not?
No,
You don't get food noise.
I don't really understand.
Because you
this
don't have
concept.
because you don't have it. You're literally the only person I've ever met that doesn't have it.
You don't have it.
You are joking. I have it 24 hours a day.
What does it
What do
feel
you
like,
mean?
Nicole? Sorry, I know you're interviewing me, but what does it feel like?
What does it feel like? Well, it can be quite disruptive sometimes. I mean, I'm used to it and I've learned how to work with it. So I've kind of I work with it now rather than let it rule me. But it's a constant, what am I going to eat? Have I just eaten that? Should I have eaten that? Do I want that? Do I want this? It just constant noise about food, what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat it, when I've eaten it, how I feel about when I've eaten it. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think is what I ate yesterday.
Do you?
Yeah. It's the first thing that goes through my mind.
Okay, you've got food noise.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's very loud.
I just don't, I've never experienced that. Like ever.
I know.
I can't imagine what that is like to feel like.
It can be very disruptive.
Okay.
Very, very disruptive and very distracting.
So I think food noise has now hit the zeitgeist because, as you say, a lot of people talk about these medicines shutting off the food noise.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that these medications can do that is that, yes, the hormone is generated by the gut, but a lot of its impact is in the brain. And we're still learning exactly what that means.
Okay.
So we know that the brain's appetite center in a gland called the hypothalamus responds to GLP-1 by generating a behavior, and that behavior is you feel full, you stop eating, get on with your day. We know there's an element of food reward. What does that mean? It means eating isn't just like kind of plugging your mobile phone in and charging yourself up. There's an element of, there's pleasure, sociability. And that is dopamine transmission in the brain, in your brain's reward center, and certain foods give more reward than others. So I'll give you an example. So in my clinic, if people come and I'm seeing them for a weight issue, very few people say that when I'm feeling low or down or sad or bored, I'll make myself an omelette. Right? It's just like that's not what people say. Why? Because that's a good food. It's a healthy food.
Yeah.
It can feel delicious to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't hit your reward center.
Not like a Magnum might.
Correct.
I quite like an omelette.
I mean, I actually don't like a Magnum, but
You also don't like an omelette.
No, I don't like either. But I can see, yeah.
So GLP-1 dampens down that reward.
Right.
So the pleasure from food is less.
So would you like eat the Magnum and be like,
Yeah.
that wasn't
you
so
might
great?
not even be compelled to eat it.
Okay.
So that's part of the food noise. So it's just like, let's say I always walk past this certain restaurant or outlet or coffee shop or bakery. And normally, if I don't go in, that takes a massive amount of a pep talk and willpower and like, no, not today. No, you did it yesterday. No, you're going to be good. All this sort of stuff. And then people who take these medicines say, actually, I just breeze on past. It doesn't even occur to me that I want to go in, let alone having these like internal battles about whether we can resist and move on. And you know, so that's pretty liberating.
Yeah, I'm sure it must be.
I mean, I would love to turn the food noise off just for 5 seconds. One day, that would be really nice. But like I said, I've learned how to work with it. But it would. I also accept that it's never going to turn off. I do accept that. Do you have food noise?
I love food. I love cooking. I have a big interest in, and I love getting together with people and sitting down and having dinner together as a family is massively important. But I don't think that's food noise. No,
I don't think it is either.
I enjoy food, but then I'm pretty good at just sort of happy to kind of move on. And I don't know, if I go out and like sometimes if we go out and oh my god, if we like share a pudding, I don't normally eat puddings, but I don't really think about it.
No, I would never think about it.
Or like the next day. So I think I don't.
And also sometimes we would have one, sometimes we wouldn't. Yeah, but I certainly wouldn't think about it.
And if I said, "Do you want to share?" and you said no, I wouldn't care.
No, me neither.
But don't you think, in your professional opinion, that is quite rare from what you see in your clinic?
I think it is rare. I think there is a major preoccupation with food and weight. And it's, I think it's unusual. I think partly it comes back to our conversation a few years ago, which is when you eat in a certain way, which I do, and you'd expect me to say that because obviously that's the way I encourage my patients to eat. I think it is possible to be quite relaxed around food and to get pleasure from food, but not in such a way that it's hard to control what you're doing.
It's just the way you eat.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
What's the difference between Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy? Are they just brand names or are they actually different?
They are brand names, but they are also different.
Okay.
So essentially, there are two drugs that are really well known at the moment. There is one called semaglutide that is made by one drug company, and they have two versions of it. They have Ozempic and Wegovy. This is the same drug, but in different pens. So the Ozempic pen will allow you to dial up to a certain dose, and that tends to be used in the context of diabetes. The Wegovy pen, this is the same drug, will essentially allow you to give it in a higher dose because you can dial up to that higher dose, and Wegovy tends to be used for weight management. These medications contain one hormone, GPL-1. Okay? Mounjaro, on the other hand, contains a mimic of two hormones, GLP-1 and another gut hormone called GIP. So it's what we call a dual agonist. It works on two different hormone pathways. And that is used for both diabetes and weight, but again, you tend to use it for weight in higher doses.
Okay. And how do they work? What happens when you inject it? And how do you take it? You just inject it?
So these preparations are injectables. The way it works is sort of quite multifactorial. It's important to say that when we make our own versions of these hormones, they last in the system probably minutes, whereas these are weekly injections. So obviously they've been heavily modified synthetic versions of the hormones, so they can last in the system a week. So you only need to inject once a week. Okay. So that means that you have this quite pervasive fullness when you haven't eaten anything, right? Which is obviously different from the way the natural hormone works. Now, what's happening? There are local effects within the gut, i.e. the hormones work within the gut. Part of their effect, they slow down the rate at which your stomach empties.
Right.
So when your stomach's feeling quite full, you don't tend to be inclined to eat more or to seek out food again that quickly. And then within the brain, as we said, they turn down appetite in the hypothalamus and reduce the reward that we feel when we eat something. And that can be quite blunting. So that even if you are inclined to eat one of your previous go-tos, you get much less pleasure from it. And what's important is if you historically used food to manage your mood, you will need to find something else.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you're not getting a pick-me-up from food because of these medications, and that's good, and your weight's coming down, or your diabetes is improving, and you know, lots of other good things are happening, you might end up feeling like, well, how do I manage when I've had a bad day at work?
So that you're unsatisfied.
Yeah, well, you need to be careful that the way you then go on to manage doesn't tip you into unwanted behaviours, right? So you don't want to say, well, I don't get, you know, pleasure or satisfaction or soothing or calming from the Magnum anymore, right? So actually I'm going to start
Smoking.
Gambling or exactly right,
Yeah.
or doing other things just to give me a bit of consolation and comfort.
Okay.
Interesting, because it's an outlet for a lot of people.
I think food, you know, managing your emotions with food is really, really common.
Yes.
And it's really
And complicated.
It's common and complicated, and people do it in a different, you know, it affects people in ways. You know, sometimes you'll only do it if you're feeling really glum, and other people it's an everyday event, and other people food just doesn't feature in their coping skills. So I think it's important to know where you sit within that.
If you use food, if you use food in the context of your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. What about this pill? I keep reading about this version of a pill that's being created or has been created instead of an injection.
In time, we probably will move to pill versions along a similar premise. So synthetic hormones being taken to augment what the natural hormone would already do.
Okay.
Okay. So that's coming down the line. We do have one pill version already. It's only licensed for use in diabetes.
Okay.
So, and I think down the line we'll have, you know, improved iterations.
Okay.
What are your feelings on, obviously it's become so mainstream and so popular, this GLP-1. What are your feelings on it? I guess I'm going to ask a few questions in one. Have you been using this for a long time? And how do you feel about it being so mainstream now and so accessible to so many people?
So we've been using versions of this medication since the mid-2000s for diabetes.
Okay.
So there is a longer term experience with them than the current trend would suggest.
Okay.
They've only really tipped into the weight management space far more recently. But I think in terms of safety and, you know, clinical experience, we're talking, you know, about two decades worth. I think it's... Look, it's a complete revolution that people finally have something that can be a catalyst to them, you know, taking control of their weight or their health or their diabetes, or for whatever reason they're taking this medicine. But you're right, the interest in it can lead to, a sort of under the counter Wild West scenario. Yes, I would like to think that people are only guessing it after they've had a full medical consultation, examination, blood tests, etc. And then it's prescribed on a totally legit prescription from a regulated pharmacy. Is that always happening? No, we see in the press it's not. And that's a worry. I think definitely in my career, I haven't really seen another drug that people are so keen to get hold of, and I don't blame those individuals, right? Weight and all the other associated conditions, it's a real, it's difficult to live with. So I totally understand why people would seek it out. These medications are very hard to get on the NHS.
Yep.
And, going down a private route might be completely inaccessible for many people. I totally get that.
The criteria on the NHS when I was researching this show is currently, is this right? You have to have a BMI of over 40. There's a BMI criteria. Yeah.
It varies between the drugs and there's other nuances to the situation.
Right.
But yes, you need to have a BMI roughly in that ballpark.
But that is very, very, very overweight. And I'm imagining if you are that size, you're going to be having other health conditions related to that.
Indeed. So not only is there a BMI criteria, but you often have to have those associated health conditions to also meet the requirement to satisfy the guidelines.
Okay.
So I think the NHS definitely recognises that for many people these drugs can be a game changer.
Yeah.
But I think they have slightly launched onto the scene and the funding hasn't been able to keep up. And so you need to find a way to establish, fairness and an even playing field, who can have this, rather than individual doctors or clinics or whatever making up their own rules and trying to help the patient in front of them.
Do you think the private prescribing process is rigorous enough?
So I think if you go down as a sort of totally standard route, you see a private doctor in a regulated, health space, and you go through all the proper checks and balances. Yeah.
Okay.
That's absolutely
I
fine.
know a lot of people on this, and there is not one person that has done that.
Well, I think what I really have to point out to your listeners, to your viewers, is I don't think that what we see in the press of really some tragic outcomes with people buying it, from gyms or internet or I don't know, wherever they're getting it from. I don't think those are standalone, really offbeat, unusual examples. And I would implore your audience, I totally understand that weight loss can feel like a massive priority, but please don't endanger yourself. Please obtain this if you're going down that route from a recognised, regulated provider. I think this is just such a key message.
They are getting it from regulated providers and from very well-known pharmacists, but they don't, it's just not very rigorous. They don't ask for photos, they lie about their weight, and then when they want to get another dosage or another prescription, they just say, oh, I haven't lost any weight. Like, they lie, basically, and there's no way of
I think that does also partly then come down to the person
individual
seeking the medication. As doctors, pharmacists, health professionals, we rely on patients being straight with us.
Yes.
Yeah. And so,
that's fair.
And so, if somebody is, and I know this happens, sending in, a weight record that isn't quite up to scratch, or sending in photos that don't belong to them and so on, we have to go on what you're telling us.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's everyone's responsibility to be safe, both the person acquiring the medicine and the person doing the prescribing.
I think that's really fair, actually, because a lot of people are putting the responsibility on the suppliers, wherever that's coming from. But actually, you're right. It's down to the individual to be straight and put their own health, be truthful and honest about
I think the prism to look at it is most people, when they see a doctor, when they're seen in a healthcare setting and they're asked a question, I don't know, do you have any allergies, or what medicines are you on? Have you ever done an operation in the past? You just give a straight answer.
Yes.
And you give a straight answer because that's the safe thing to do.
Yes.
Right? And so the same applies in this scenario.
Yes.
So we're going to go on to the side effects, but I just want to ask, in your opinion, who should be using these? Who shouldn't be using these? And what do you think about the women who are just want to lose a stone for a wedding?
But it's not just women.
It's not just the women.
Not just women.
And men. People who want to lose a stone for a wedding.
Or not necessarily a wedding, they just want to lose some weight.
A small amount of weight.
These are prescription-only medicines for a reason. Any prescription you take has side effects. Yeah, it's not just, I want to lose weight for the wedding, the holiday, whatever, and it's going to be plain sailing. I think you have to bear in mind that you might have side effects that, I would only really recommend these for people who have a medical reason to need them, be it to do with diabetes, or they have a weight issue, which, as you say, is having a knock-on effect on other conditions. They've developed sleep apnea, or they have arthritis, or they have fatty liver, or, they have some medical reason why weight loss is important. Essentially, in all situations, the benefits of what you're doing must outweigh the risks. And yes, the risks for an individual might not be very high, but there is still going to be a risk, and you have to ask yourself, if I need to only need a small amount of weight loss and it's not medically indicated, is that worth the risk, which that person, should have been counselled through. The risk of pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas, for example, is a real risk. And you have to, and that's the other reason then to have this detailed conversation, to do the weighing up with the person who's prescribing. So ultimately you can decide, is this a medicine I should be taking? The other thing to say about, I'll just take it for a month, or I'll just take it for 3 months and then I'll go to the wedding or the holiday and whatever. When you stop these medicines, you can regain the weight very quickly. Because what happens is you withdraw the drug and your appetite circuit, which had been muted by the drug, is suddenly on full volume. And you can develop a voracious hunger and very rapid weight regain, and that can be incredibly distressing. Some people end up at a higher weight than they were before the medicine.
But can you take it forever?
Don't know is the answer.
Okay.
So the older versions that we've been using for a very long time for diabetes suggest it is safe in the long term. But these are newer versions, and so our experience of them is more limited. So far, there doesn't seem to be a reason to stop them. We're not seeing that signal. That said, a lot of people do say, I don't want to be on an injection or a medicine all my life or for many years. And I understand that. But then you shouldn't, then it's a conversation about how it stopped and when it stopped. And, so it probably is safe long time. We don't know. We don't know that. We're watching.
And if you're not doing it with a doctor, if you are just going to your local pharmacy and buying it, then you're not having that conversation about how to come off it safely and when and how and all the rest of it. You're just stopping, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, some people wean it down. So they just, they reduce the dose gradually, things like this. There isn't a huge evidence base for what to do. I mean, intuitively, it seems to make sense rather than just an abrupt stop. But, we don't really know.
And when you come off it, does things like the food noise just reverts back to normal?
Sometimes and sometimes not. Some people find they can really sustain what it is they've achieved.
Yeah.
And maybe if their food choices have changed, and remember, so much is habit as well. I always walk past that place and I always go in, but then if you haven't done that for 6 months or a year or 2 years, then it's probably just not in your routine anymore. So some people really manage to wire in all those changes and do very well when they stop. For other people, it's much more of a challenge.
Why doesn't it work on some people?
Don't know.
Okay.
Don't know. And that is the case. Some people take it. They take it in a very highly supervised way. They take it at the right dose. And they really lose very little weight. And it's quite interesting. Sometimes people with diabetes take it and their diabetes really improves, but their weight doesn't really shift.
Interesting.
So it's not that they're completely resistant to it. It's just it doesn't particularly work for them on a weight basis. I mean, there is so much that controls body weight. It's not just GLP-1 or GIP if you're thinking of Mounjaro, right? There are so many hormones and neurotransmitters, not to mention the emotional aspect and all the other things that control body weight. So just changing the hormone signaling in 1 or 2 pathways isn't necessarily going to be is not necessarily going to cut it for somebody. The way to look at it is we've got tons of blood pressure drugs. Might try one in you, your blood pressure doesn't come down because that wasn't the pathway driving your blood pressure. You try another one or another one, and ultimately you find the right one that lowers your blood pressure. It's going to be the same with weight.
Okay. I want to talk about the side effects. What do you know about the side effects just from taking the drug that people tell you about? And then the second question is it dangerous for the body?
I'm just going to take a moment here to talk about our new obsession, which is London Nootropics adaptogenic coffee.
We found it in the studio. We started drinking it. We became obsessed with it. We brought it into our own homes and then we contacted the company.
We cold emailed them.
Because we loved it so much.
We loved it so much and we really wanted to work with them. All I can tell you is that every time I drink one of these coffees and I like the flow, it is like, it just switches me on. I can do back-to-back shows. I can come home. I can do edits. I'm awake. I'm alive. I'm focused. I'm here. I'm in the room. It tastes delicious. I love this coffee.
I like the Zen. That's my favourite blend. I have it with oat milk and a sweetener of, as I have to.
Yes.
It's a little bit of caffeine, but not too much caffeine. So you don't get the jitters and you don't get the crash. I just feel very calm. I feel very productive. And also, and can I just say this is the most important thing, it is yummy. This is what people ask, like, is it mushroomy? Does it taste disgusting? Let me smell it. It's lovely.
And it's got all the good quality stuff in it.
And it's properly sourced.
Yes, it is properly sourced. So it's ethically sound. And it's got things like KSM 66 ashwagandha. I didn't know what that was, but apparently that's really good for you.
It's so good for you.
It's got lots of potent mushroom extracts and exclusively from Hifas all with clinical studies. So basically, in layman's terms, what you are putting in your system is really good.
And tastes good.
And they have given us, to give you a 20% off code at londonnootropics.com, and all you have to write in, the code is self-care.
Go get yourself some, you won't regret it.
Some execs want Gen AI everywhere. Others think it's basically a shredder for intellectual property. And your people? Yeah, they're already using it. Okay, picture this. Someone pastes the Q4 strategy doc and client list into a free AI tool and it's no longer yours. Harmonic Security warns people before they paste in sensitive data, so you can say yes to Gen AI and still protect what matters most. Visit harmonic.security before your crown jewels end up in a chatbot.
'Tis the season for all your holiday favorites, like A Very Jonas Christmas Movie and Home Alone on Disney+.
Should I burn down the joint? I don't think so.
Then Hulu has National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
We're all in for a very big Christmas treat.
All of these and more streaming this holiday season. And right now, save big with our special Black Friday offer. Bundle Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 1 year. Savings compared to current regular monthly price. Ends 12/1. Offer for ad-supported Disney Plus Hulu bundle only. Then $12.99 a month or then current regular monthly price. 18 plus terms apply.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
I want to talk about the side effects. Mm-hmm. What do you know about the side effects just from taking the drug that people tell you about? And then the second question is it dangerous for the body?
Okay, great question. So the side effects tend to fall into two categories. Remember we said that these drugs work in the gut and in the brain.
Yeah.
So that slowing of the gut very commonly results in constipation.
That sounds very, yes, plausible.
And the slowing often results in nausea, sometimes frank vomiting.
Right.
So those are the commonest side effects. Other things can come into play too, but those are the ones that people tend to report most often. It's also working in the brain. And remember, it's working, yes, in the appetite center, yes, in the reward center, but it's going to be working in other places as well that we don't necessarily know about. Some people feel very tired the day they inject, for example. Okay, other people might get a headache. So there's sort of various other things going on. There's that blunting that we talked about. Sometimes people's mood feels a bit flat. So there's various things like that. It's incredibly important to keep up resistance exercise. So because essentially when you stand on the scale, right? If you stand on the scale, you're like, amazing, I've lost 6 kilos. What have you lost? You don't know that from bathroom scales or even the scales in your doctor's office, okay? And we know that a third, if not a half of that weight loss is loss of lean mass, okay? So you're not losing 6 kilos of fat, okay? You might be losing 3 kilos of fat or 4 kilos of fat, but you might also be losing muscle, bone, cartilage, all the other tissues you don't want to lose. Okay? We do know that happens. So you must do resistance exercise to keep your muscle mass up.
Isn't that problematic though? I mean, I'm always trying to build muscle and my diet is all about keeping my muscle and retaining it, especially as I come into my menopause and becoming older and want to stay as strong as possible. Isn't this quite problematic then for women who are perhaps menopausal and just to be later on in life?
Well, it's another reason to have that consult. Because it's going to be it's a very specific question that you need to discuss, right? And I totally agree with you. There are certain groups that are far more at risk and it has far more health implication than for others. If you're young and fit and active and in your 20s and so on, maybe it's less of an issue. But if you're what if you're in your 60s or your 70s? And you already have what we call sarcopenia, where your muscles aren't as strong as they historically were. And sarcopenia is one of the biggest risk factors for going into old age, and your health declining. You also need that sort of muscle reserve to deal with illnesses that then might come your way. Right? If you get a really bad flu or a pneumonia, if you're an older person and you break your hip or, these sorts of things, you need to have something in the bank to get through that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think every single case is going to have its nuance. And you're right. What if you're a postmenopausal woman? What if you're in your 70s? What if you're in your 20s? You need to have these conversations, and not just, as you say, sort of get it slightly on the quick and from a bit of a sort of questionnaire approach.
Does it affect HRT if you're taking HRT?
Good question. It might.
In what way?
Is the answer. And it's sort of a developing field. Might be an impact on hormonal contraception as well, so you might need to look at that.
Right.
Yeah, so it's...
Oh my God, really? Someone's on the pill?
There were lots of women getting pregnant when they were on the pill and on Ozempic because it was interfering.
So this is, again, why you got to talk about your own situation and what other medicines you're on and all these other things.
And be very honest about everything.
Yeah, as ever, right? This is not something to sort of try and fudge things or have smoke screens or, you've got to be straightforward. Ultimately, you're the one that loses out if you get a complication or a problem or, that could have been avoided if you'd been totally straightforward, which I think all your listeners are.
Of course.
Of course they are.
Of course they are.
I want to talk about the side effects. These are the ones that I found out about and I want to know if they're true or not true. Is there a risk to the kidneys, the pancreas?
Kidneys, no.
Right.
So even some people with really advanced kidney disease can still use that. Obviously, caveat being, this has all got to be checked with the person looking after you, right? The pancreas, yes. So there is a very well-known risk of this condition called pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas. It's incredibly serious, right? If you get it, that's not just a case of, having a lie down. You will end up in A&E. You will be really sick.
Okay.
So it is just really, really important. Again, if you've had pancreatitis before, if you're somebody at risk of pancreatitis, you might not know if you're at risk of pancreatitis. That's why you need to go through your medical history. Okay. Pancreatitis, yes, absolutely.
Pancreatic cancer and thyroid cancer?
Okay, so thyroid cancer came into play because the research that was done on rodents, prior to the human trials, suggested an increased risk of a very specific form of thyroid cancer. But this was in rodent models. So far, that signal doesn't seem to be coming through in humans taking the medicine. However, if you or a member of your family have had this specific form of thyroid cancer, then I wouldn't prescribe that medicine for you.
Okay. Another reason to see your doctor. Muscle loss we've discussed. What about people who are talking about eyesight issues?
Yes, that has been reported, and that is again something to look out for. No, it doesn't mean that if you have any eye condition you can't have it, but there are specific eye conditions where it would be a contraindication.
Okay.
So again, it is, as we keep saying, it's important to go through this.
And hair loss?
Yes.
Why?
I've seen a lot of that.
Well, it's probably two things. Whenever you lose weight very rapidly, right? If you are really ill, if you go on a very low calorie diet, whatever reason for this very rapid, very major weight loss, people tend to lose their hair. Okay. So we see it, for example, after bariatric surgery. Okay. Not in everyone by any means, but it is a recognized side effect.
Okay.
So it's partly to do with how much weight you're losing and how quickly, but it can also be because you have vitamin or mineral deficiencies. So yes, you're eating less, but it is really important to make sure that your diet is still really healthy, really balanced. Another reason to sort of go through this in an absolutely above board way, because you need your blood test checked. How would you know if you're B12 deficient or vitamin D deficient, or all of those things need to be monitored. So yes, absolutely, you can develop those deficiencies, and you might not know unless you have the blood work to look into it.
osteoporosis?
Not sure is the answer.
Okay.
There might be something. I don't know. I don't know about that one. If you lose osteoporosis, you're more at risk if you have a lower body weight, and you're more at risk of a fracture. But I'm not sure if there's a direct link. I haven't heard of that.
And what is the research on the jabs reducing the risk of Alzheimer's? Do they really reduce brain shrinkage by 50%?
It's an emerging field. It's an exciting field. I think it's also being looked into for conditions like Parkinson's disease.
Okay.
So there is going to be some effect on these neurodegenerative illnesses. But as far as I know, that is not currently in clinical use. I think it's still very much a research question. I think the other thing to point out is sometimes when you have these illnesses, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, you're quite unwell, you're quite frail, you've lost your muscle mass. It's hard for you to eat anyway, right? You're not really getting enough calories in. Sometimes you forget to drink and you need to be prompted and so on. So it may be that, in a research setting, you can see these great things on, MRI scans or whatever, but sometimes in the real world, you have to think, could a person with these illnesses, how would they cope with these other issues and side effects and so on? So I don't know, I'm just speculating, and it might end up being incredibly exciting. And, for conditions like that we haven't really got that sort of inroad on, and there are a lot of people out there suffering with these conditions, maybe it will be the next big thing. But I think right now it's more of a hypothesis.
Okay.
Should we do some listener questions?
Yes.
Oh, go on.
How are weight loss jabs different to any of the diets and quick fixes that have been marketed to us for decades? Research shows that most people regain weight after stopping the jabs. So is it the case that midlife women have to be on them for life, ka-ching, for the drugs companies?
Okay.
We've kind of covered this.
Yeah. So the answer is, look, if you come off it, there is a risk of weight regain. We know that. That's published in the literature. That's in the evidence base, right? That's not...
it's not a secret.
It's not a secret. Mm-hmm. And I know that clinically, right? Is it possible to come off it and still retain the benefits? Yes. But, you've got to be pretty laser focused on it. And I think most people don't want to be on it long, really super uber long term. So there's got to be an exit strategy, I think, for a lot of people. But I think it's emerging about how you best do that.
Once you're at goal weight, how do you psychologically wean yourself off the meds as well as physically?
So I think you need to be at goal weight for a while. Don't just hit your goal and stop.
Okay.
Right. So I think you need to have that really, really kind of baked in.
That's very good advice, I would say.
Yeah, but I think also you've got to use the medicine as your habit change catalyst. Right? So that this gives you your honeymoon period, your golden period for changing the way you're eating, your exercise, your sleep, your stress management, all of the things that are going to have a long-term impact about, your weight and your health and how you feel about yourself. So don't I think it's tempting when you take the drugs, the food noise goes, you're losing weight, everything feels fantastic, to not maybe put in those foundational changes, but really use the time you're in it to really hardwire in those changes so that if you stop it or you come off it,
you're good. You can rely on yourself.
You have a bit more, foundational underpinning than just stopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Where is a safe place to source them? I have heard horror stories in the news about people dying after buying them online.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very cautious about buying any medicine online, right? So just be really, really, really careful. You can have a chat to your GP. Things things change, things emerge, guidelines move, funding comes. Don't assume because you couldn't get it a year ago that's always going to be the case. So your GP is always a good place to start. If you don't qualify for it on the NHS or your local provider for whatever reason can't give it to you, see a established consultant in that field, or a doctor who knows about these medicines with experience of these medicines.
And would that be an endocrinologist?
Usually, yes. is the answer, because, we said these are synthetic hormones and endocrinologists are hormone doctors. Many of my endocrinologist colleagues at One Welbeck will see patients who want to start these medicines, and they won't always end up starting the medicine, right? Because you have that in-depth discussion, and maybe you both decide actually this isn't the right route for you. Conversely, you might both decide absolutely, let's give this a go. Yeah, so that's really the safe way to do it.
Okay. There's also been a bit of moral panic. Are we cheating, in inverted commas, by using a drug for weight loss?
Yeah, I think that's a really tricky one, right? There's so much moralizing that goes on about weight and eating and body shape in the way that it doesn't about any other medication.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
If you need to take a medicine, I don't know, for your blood pressure, or you need to take a statin, or you need to take a paracetamol because you've got a headache, who has a go at you about that? Precisely nobody, right? So I think in the same way, if somebody needs help with their weight, right, why are we standing in their way? Why are we judging them?
Yes.
Right?
It's funny, isn't it? Well, I think a lot of people are using it when they perhaps don't need to, and who are we to decide who needs to and who doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because these conversations now are so outside of the clinic room.
Yes.
They're just and everybody's got an opinion.
Yes.
Right? And yes, people might be very moralizing about all of this, but that really, really comes down to people's judgments and attitudes and stigmatization around weight. Yeah? And I think, if you have really any other treatment, if you say, I'm going into hospital, I don't know, to get my hernia fixed, no one's going to have a go at you.
No one's judging you, yeah.
People will say, good luck, get well soon, buy you a bunch of flowers.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we've just got to really move away from this attitude about weight that is so unhelpful for so many people.
And also I think there's such a thing about, bigger people that walk around in these larger bodies are somehow seen as lazy, or they're not doing what other people can do, or they're not exercising enough, or they're eating too much. But that's not really the case, is it?
Well, Nicole, if your audience reads my new book,
yes,
chapter 10, they will find out that why don't you just eat less and exercise more has no biological basis. Right, so we need to stop saying that. We need to stop saying like, oh, well, if only they could just eat less and exercise more, they wouldn't be in this pickle in the first place, right? The reason as an endocrinologist I'm interested in all this is all to do with hormones and hormone dysfunction, right? If somebody has an underactive thyroid and then they take thyroid hormones, everybody says, well, okay, that sounds pretty okay. That sounds pretty straightforward. But in the same way, your hormones can be totally thrown if you end up at such a weight that people are very judgmental and your life doesn't feel great, right? This is a hormone issue, right? I'll give you another example. When you have a baby and that baby weighs, I don't know, 6 pounds, right? And then 13, 14 years later they're taller than you, right? And everybody understands that a hormone made them grow, or many hormones made them grow, right? Nobody said this was a behavioural thing or something you did or something that they did. And your body weight is really controlled in much the same way, right? So we really have to understand there's all this complex hormonal signalling going on. For some people, it goes a bit wrong and leads them to a body weight in a place where they don't want to be. And if they need to go down some lifestyle change or have these injections or, whatever, bingo, let's help them.
But you do have families who are bigger families and families where everyone in the family is very small. It might be that they're all 5'3" and they're all very slim, and other families where they're very tall and they weigh much more.
So weight is as heritable as height.
But you can see that in families often.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
Yeah. But people don't see that as they see it as a lifestyle thing only. They don't see all the other stuff. They don't see it as, oh, it must be their hormonal makeup.
Yeah.
That's just not part of the conversation.
But everyone is also so individual. There was some discussion that I was looking at online when I was doing this show where these women were having a conversation, and a couple of them were saying, it's really weird because I wanted to lose some weight, and so I cut all the carbs out of my diet, and actually I didn't lose anything. And then I actually went back on the carbs and actually lost the weight. And all these other women were like, yeah, oh my God, me too. Because no one is a cookie cutter. Everyone responds differently to everything, right?
And also carbohydrates are really important.
And tasty.
Aren't they?
It depends if you want to lose weight. So the majority of people will have to do some carb reduction to lose weight. That's just the endocrinology of it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just going for a textbook, this is what the biochemistry says, you're going to have to cut your carbs, right? But you're right, on a lived experience, case-by-case basis, people might need to do that more or less. Or, everybody's got a different set point. And yeah, absolutely.
If people listening are thinking about weight management and ways that they could possibly help themselves, or they feel like this show's brought up a lot of stuff they want to talk about, what can they do? How can they find help?
Okay. Chat to your GP. That's always a good starting place. If you want to see a specialist and that's not available to you in the NHS, or, for some reason that's not possible, if it's, within your means and you can, it doesn't put pressure on you, you can think about seeing somebody privately. There's a fabulous group at One Welbeck, amazing endocrinologists. If I had a hormone problem, I would be hot-footing it there to see them. And that's a really great place to get your advice, get your bespoke assessment, and whatever path you end up on, to know that you're getting support and you're doing things safely.
Great. And tell us about your books for people who might want to lose weight with or without the jabs.
Okay. So the reason I came here, 3 years ago?
Yes.
Is we were talking about my first book, The Full Diet.
Yes.
Right. Which is really a book about weight management based on my sort of clinical expertise. Okay. So it's really all very highly rooted in the hormones, in the genes, in the science, in the gut microbiome, in the neurotransmitters. Is all the stuff that impacts on your weight. And you might think, well, okay, that's really interesting, I'll read that anyway because I'm the kind of person who likes to know about my body. But actually it's a highly practical book, because you might think, well, that was great to know about my gut microbiome, but then at the end of the chapter it gives you some actionables if you want to improve your gut health. Now, you might not want to, right? But you might think, well, that's fine, but that doesn't apply to me.
Who doesn't want to?
Well, there might be, there could be somebody who then reads the sleep chapter and they go, this really applies to me, right?
Yep.
And then maybe they have to prioritize what they're going to change. And some people just jump straight in and, want to change everything, and that's cool too, right? Horses for courses. So that was my first book, and that was an absolute joy. And two things sometimes happen, right? Sometimes somebody reaches out who I've never met before, right? I don't know them, they're a reader, and they tell me how much their life has been transformed. And I'm just thinking,
amazing.
Oh my gosh, all those hours of sitting by myself, typing in my bedroom, that was like 100% worth it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and this is just the coolest thing, I see a patient in clinic and I read the referral letter, look at their record, and it's like, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, your blood pressure's normal. Those blood tests you had last week, they look fabulous. Check your weight now. I don't even know why have you come, right? And they bound in and they said, while I was waiting for this appointment, I read your book. And I'm like, oh, like my heart is bursting at that point. So I'm so happy. That makes me so happy. And then I just tell them, well, you have made my life very easy today. Let's just have a chat, right?
Let's just carry on.
Let's just catch up because, you've kind of put in all the legwork here. So that's really cool. That was my first book. And then there was an associated cookbook, which is really lovely. As I said, I'm into food. I love cooking. And I thought, let me just share this. Every recipe in that book, we pretty much make at home. So, it's not like I'm saying, you can only cook things from this book if you need to lose weight or improve your health or whatever. Frankly, you make stuff from this book, you invite people over for dinner, nobody will say, why am I getting diet food? I'm not on a diet, right? So it's just really fabulous food. My new book is all about hormones. So yes, weight and all of that is in it. But actually it's more broadly about hormones, because we've got tons of hormones, many of which sort of don't ever hit the headlines. So yes, everybody knows about cortisol. Everyone's talking about cortisol, right? Cortisol is like a TikTok sensation now. But there's tons of other hormones that essentially inform your every moment of your lived experience. Why are you tired? Why are you hungry? Why are you irritated? And a lot of the time, you put this...
Are we irritated?
Yeah, a lot of the time, we put this...
I don't even know who she's talking to.
We put this down to, oh, it's just one of those things, or it's life, or it's this, or it's that. But actually, we are so controlled by our hormones that the more I get into the more I get into this, the more I realise I'm not in control of my life. Like, actually, when your hormones work well, you're just kind of gliding along, right? They're just doing it for you. How much effort did you put into growing your baby when you were pregnant? Precisely none, right? You might have gone to bed a bit earlier or gone for a walk or something, but your hormones just took care of it all. They grew another human being. I mean, that is
so true.
Pretty amazing.
It is amazing.
So true.
It is amazing.
So
aren't we amazing?
We're just amazing. So the book is very much about how amazing we are, right? It, and it looks into a lot from, why do we moralize about overweight people, right? It looks into these aspects as well. But also, how did we know about these hormones in the first place, right? All of these things that have now just become settled science, where did it come from? And the answer is it often came from a very plucky individual who had a good idea, often a clinician, a doctor, who'd observed something in their particular patient cohort. So often they were mocked, not believed, put down, put in their box. And very often they turned out to be right, right? So much of the book, I think, is very hopeful, and this big good news message that actually the outside world might be very difficult to navigate. Every time you look at your social media feed or turn on the news, some other awful thing going on, right? The outside world is not necessarily in our control, but the inside world that's run by your hormones is precisely fabulous, right? And such a source of hope that something that clever can be happening inside you all the time.
Well, I am waiting for my advance copy, because I'm not waiting till June 2026. I want one sent in an Uber to my door. Signed.
She could actually give it to you herself.
I mean, she could. That is true.
It's a done deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for coming in again. Thank you for giving up your time and your expertise to us and our listeners. We very much appreciate you.
Greatest pleasure always.
Thank you. And you're going to come back when the book is out.
Oh my gosh, definitely. Once Lauren's got her advance copy, right?
Once I've highlighted it with my highlighted pen, I'll be ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.